People often say, a mother's love is unconditional. And they're absolutely right. But what about the man who quietly gives up every dream he ever had, just so his children can chase theirs? The man whose hands become rough after years of overtime, whose back slowly bends under the weight of responsibility, and who ends every single night with just one prayer. God, please don't let my children go through the struggles I had to endure. That man is called a father. In a small American town, there lived a little boy. Every evening he would sit by the window waiting for his dad to come home. The moment he heard the sound of his father's pickup truck, he would run outside and throw his arms around him. His dad came home exhausted every day. Yet somehow, he always wore a smile. Sometimes he brought home a small toy, sometimes his favorite ice cream. But the little boy never knew that on the days he was enjoying that ice cream, his father had skipped lunch just to afford it. That's what fathers do. They sacrifice their own needs without ever talking about it. If their jacket gets old, they'll say it's still good. If their car starts falling apart, they'll say it can last a little longer. But if their child has even the smallest dream, they'll fight the whole world to make it come true. Years passed. The little boy grew up and started college. Now his dad seemed old-fashioned to him. Whenever his father said, "Son, be careful with your money," he would get annoyed. He thought, Dad doesn't understand today's world. Then one day, in the heat of an argument, he said something he could never take back. "What have you ever accomplished in your life?" Silence filled the room. His father looked at him for a few seconds, smiled softly, and quietly replied, "Maybe you're right, son. I never really did anything for myself." Then he walked away. That day, perhaps for the first time, his eyes filled with tears. Later that night, his mother entered his room. She handed him an old box. "Read this," she said. "Maybe then you'll understand what your father has done with his life." Inside the box were old photographs, medical bills, mortgage papers, and a worn-out notebook. The first page read, "Today I got my first job. One day I hope to buy my own home." The next page, "Today my son was born. From this day on, every dream I have belongs to him." Another page, "I finally saved enough to buy a motorcycle, but my son's school tuition and health insurance come first. Maybe someday." Another, "I wanted to take a vacation this year, but the mortgage payment and college savings can't wait." Another, "The doctor told me I need more rest, but next month is my son's university tuition." The young man's hands began to shake. He slowly turned to the final page. It read, "I hope my children never feel that their father was weak, so I'll carry every burden with a smile." And beneath it, one final sentence. "Even if one day my son is angry with me, I will never stop loving him, because that's what being a father means." Tears streamed down the young man's face. He remembered every late-night shift, every evening his father came home exhausted, yet still asked, "How was school today?" Every time his father smiled and said, "I've already eaten, son," when in reality, he simply wanted to make sure his child never went to bed hungry. That night, he quietly walked into his father's room. His dad was asleep. His hair had turned gray. Wrinkles covered his face. The veins in his hands stood out from decades of hard work. This was the same man who once carried him on his shoulders and made the world seem so big. Now, those same shoulders had grown heavy from carrying a lifetime of responsibility. The son sat beside him and broke down in tears. Friends. A mother carries her child for 9 months, but a father carries that child in his heart and on his shoulder for the rest of his life. He doesn't worry about himself, he worries about whether his children will succeed, whether they'll be safe, whether their dreams will survive, whether they'll ever have to cry the way he once did. So if your father is still with you today, sit beside him. Look him in the eyes and simply say, "Dad, thank you. I can never repay everything you've done for me, but I want you to know that I'm proud to be your child." Because the truth is, the strongest man in the world is often a father. He breaks,